Okay, in this third video, we are now getting started on the roof. So that means when we're done with this, we have the walls, we have the floors, and we have the roof. Um, and the roof in this case is actually a bit tricky, but we'll get through it anyway. So basically, what we're doing is we go into architecture, and in this case, we take the roof. This is what we call a roof by footprint. So what I drew is exactly the same as with the floors. I draw a boundary line, and 99% of the roofs we'll be drawing, or you'll be drawing in your career, will most likely be a roof by footprint. I select a rectangle because my roof is basically just around this building, so it's quite simple. Down here, my command line, I just uncheck this define slope. And the reason for that is that I'm actually drawing a flat roof, and then afterwards I'm using our slope arrows to define the roof. And that's the thing that actually makes this a bit tricky. Had it been a standard roof, it's a lot easier, and you'll get that in the tutorial later on. So I've selected a rectangle here, unchecked define slope. I'll just set a bit of offset on it, mostly because I recall a slight offset on the roof, but I might be mistaken in that one. But if I want it, I'll put it in here, and I could say, for example, 20 millimeters. Then it's offset 20 millimeters outwards, and I'll just use that. If you think it's something else, you write that number. If you write 0, it just flushes with the walls, and that's perfectly fine. So again, top left to bottom right, and you'll notice here that the pink line, the boundary, is just outside of the walls. So now I have the boundary. If I press yes now, I just have a flat roof, and that's the starting point. But before I do it, I'll just use the slope arrow. And note another thing, I'm actually not drawing this in the roof level, I'm drawing it in my first floor level, because my roof is actually starting there, and I don't have a level that's actually above roof. So for my use, it's in this case, it's just as kind of a guideline so I can see the height of the building, and not really actually that useful right now. So slope arrow, I press this one, and we have the slope towards the south, and when I draw an arrow, the tail of the arrow is the bottom, the head of the arrow is the top. So I'm pointing upwards always. I start here, that'll be the bottom, and move upwards. Now this is where it becomes a bit tricky, because now you have to remember, or have to figure out, when is it that you have that break in the roof where it goes from an inclination to a flat roof? Where's that? My assumption is that it's probably around 6 meters in, but again, you look on your drawings and you use the number you have found. So now I have an inclination from 0 here to 6 meters in, and what I'm looking for then is the offset. Height offset at tail, that's 0, so that means that will be in the height of the level of my first floor. Height offset at head up here. So what was the height there? What's the maximum height of this roof? And I would say it was 6.5 meters. So I'd say 3250, because that's 3250 above my first floor level. And this is the tricky part to figure this out. We have to remember some numbers. So that was the first one. Then I actually draw another one. I draw that one from here, midpoint here, until I hit this arrow. What I then do is I say, well, technically, this part of the roof actually doesn't have an inclination. So what I do here is I make sure that these two numbers, height offset at tail and head, they're the same. And I write 3250, 3250, because they are at the level of this part of the roof, of course. And this is the tricky part. So let's try and have a look. Press the tick mark, go to my 3D view, and I can see I have a roof that, at least from my memory, looks similar to what I have in the building. Now, of course, you haven't drawn your model, so the walls are going up. What we do now is I select all of my external walls, and I do that by selecting one, hold my control key, and select all of the external walls here. Then I, up in my modify here, press attach top base, and then I select my roof. And then it attaches all of these walls up to that roof. If I then make a change of the roof now, then that's basically pulling up all of the walls so they follow my roof. So now the roof is done. Very simple, very beautiful. And now we're ready to look a bit at doors and windows.